What's going on, YouTube? Ferocity here. Hope you guys are doing well. I'm sure you've come across a YouTube video or a Reddit thread or even maybe a tweet that mentions that Call of Duty is in a downward spiral, that we are witnessing the death of Call of Duty. And I might not go as dark as saying that Call of Duty is quote-unquote meeting its doom, but if I'm going to be honest here, it is in a downward spiral. I think it's hard to look at Call of Duty and think anything positive towards it because it has been falling downhill for quite some time. And the crazy thing is the community has been predicting this for years and years and years. And on top of it, the community has also been giving feedback for years and years and years to prevent this downward spiral. This downward spiral is 100% self-inflicted by Activision and its developers. Infinity Ward is in this place with Modern Warfare 2 because of their inaction, because of their constant rejection of community feedback, their constant rejection of actually inputting anything new into this game. They refuse to implement major changes that will overhaul their quote-unquote vision. Well, it's time to be honest with yourselves, Infinity Ward. It's time to be honest with yourselves, Call of Duty. The vision you currently have for Call of Duty sucks. It's not good enough, and it's not meeting the expectations of today's players. You need to do better, because the competition is ramping up. Counter-Strike 2 is coming out soon. I'm going to make a video on that shortly. But Counter-Strike 2 is coming out. You've got to compete with that. Are you going to be able to compete with it? My guess is probably not. Last of Us is releasing a multiplayer game in the coming years. Are you going to be able to compete with that? My guess is probably not. Battlefield 2042 is impressive now, considering how bad it was when it launched. Can you compete with that? If Halo figures it out, you might have to compete with them. There is more competition now than ever, and you guys are consistently showing to your community, to your biggest fans, that you don't care about them. You're actively taking money out of your own pockets and putting it in the pockets of your competitors by your constant inaction. The crazy thing is we don't have to be here. The community came together after the beta and gave you a roadmap for changes that would have made Modern Warfare 2 better. But instead, you decided to not listen to any of those changes and instead just continue down this path of inevitable failure. Because that's what Modern Warfare 2 has become. It has become an absolute failure on all accounts. And the crazy thing is you can tell that Infinity Ward is grasping at straws right now because they are re-releasing paid content from Modern Warfare 2019 now into Modern Warfare 2. And they're charging you the same price for a cosmetic that you've already purchased. That is some of the scummiest shit I have ever seen. And they've got the low IQ morons eating it up. And that's the problem, is Call of Duty seems to think that its entire player base are all low IQ morons. And I take so much offense to that. Because yes, I might be low IQ and I might be a bit of a moron, but I have at least a little bit more sense than to drop the same money on the same item that I'm never going to be able to use again in any future Call of Duties. So I don't know who these games are made for anymore because they're not made for me. They're not made for somebody that's been around since COD 4. They're not made for somebody that wants to see a game actually meet the community's expectations. It's not made for somebody who actually wants to get the most out of their experience. Because I'm sorry, Modern Warfare 2 has fallen flat on the user experience side. Not only are we getting less content than we've ever had before, but on top of it, we have one of the most frustrating user experiences ever. Let's look at the AI, or the UI, pardon me. The UI in this game is awful and has been awful since day one. And anybody who thought this UI is good enough should not have a job. I'm sorry, I've said it before. I'll apologize for asking for you to be fired, but it's not good enough. This should not be acceptable in a AAA title in 2023. It's not good enough. And we've said it since the beta. But what's happened? Absolutely nothing. We talked about how Season 1 didn't have enough content. So what they do in Season 2 gave us less content. Less new content. And yes, I'll be the first person to say I loved rank play. And I love rank play. Don't get me wrong. But it's completely unacceptable that rank play was not in the game at launch. And we can consistently do this same song and dance we always do. We can consistently mention the fact that dead silence should be a perk, that the perk system in Modern Warfare 2 sucks, and that they needed to completely overhaul the sound design. But have they done any of that? No! The helicopter still bothers me for 25 seconds into every game because we just needed to be lowered in via helicopter. It's a cool cutscene, but like, it adds nothing to the overall ambiance and gameplay. Adds nothing to it. They've consistently made it more bogged down than ever. They're trying to make the game more convoluted, more complicated, instead of simplifying the experience. Remember here, I'm a low IQ moron. I need things to be simplified for me, please. Because I can go play other games like Counter-Strike, and that game's very simple. And the weird thing is, it has more players and more attention and a more positive community than Call of Duty does. And everybody wants to mention how the Call of Duty community is toxic, and I'm toxic, and people like Blame Truth and Nero are toxic. But you gotta look at yourself in the mirror and ask yourselves, are you part of the solution or part of the problem? Because I look at what we're trying to do, look at me lumping myself in with Blame Truth and Nero, but that's neither here nor there. We're trying to make positive changes to this game so that everybody can benefit, instead of trying to hold the game back because you like it in its current state. The problem is, the majority of people don't like it because Call of Duty's dying, and Call of Duty is gone on this downward spiral for years now. And it's going to be very interesting to see how Infinity Ward, Activision, Sledgehammer Games, Treyarch try to pick up the pieces. Because it might be too far gone by now. It might be at a point now where we never see Call of Duty return back to the heyday. And do not forget, this is not a you problem. This is not the community that caused this. This is 100% the developers that caused it. So don't allow the developers and Activision come out and say, well, it's because the community wanted things we just couldn't achieve. That's not true. That is complete gaslighting, and do not let Activision come out and say those things. And if they do, I'll be the first one to comment and call them out on it. Because we're here because of Activision's incompetence. We're here because of Infinity Ward's inaction. We gave them the roadmap. We told them what to fix. We told them how to make Modern Warfare 2 as good as it can be. And it completely fell on deaf ears. It completely was ignored so that they could go with this vision that is plummeting Call of Duty into the depths of hell. Maybe this is the course to actually get real change in Call of Duty. Because this is the only way that we can get them to listen, is when player counts drop below expectation, and on top of it, they're not making the money they want to from the store. Have you looked at the store lately? Is anything in there worth buying? Which makes me beg the question again, what do they do all day? What do the developers in Infinity Ward do all day? I can't figure it out. And honestly, if it means they go down to only one Call of Duty every 3 years, I'm okay with that. Have less developers, have less people working on the games. Make it so it's more of a passion project instead of a chore, because it honestly feels like the developers feel it's a bit of a chore at this point in time. Bring in people that care about the franchise instead of caring about your shareholders. Because honestly, after what we're seeing with Modern Warfare 2, your shareholders can't be happy. They can't be all content about what's going on. Because this isn't good enough. It's not good enough for the community. It's not good enough for the shareholders. So who is this appeasing? Because if I was somebody that had money invested in Activision, I'd be fucking pissed if our flagship franchise, our biggest name, was failing its community like this, was failing in the numbers, was constantly being dragged through the mud. Now, that's not to say that the Call of Duty community at its height was the most positive community, but at least we all still played the game. At least we all still pointed out some positive things from time to time. But when I can only say one thing is positive, that's not good enough. And that one positive thing, by the way, is rank play, which they're planning on changing, which is going to be a disaster in and of itself. But regardless of that fact, the roadmap's there. It's not hard to figure out how to properly make this game. It's not hard to bring this back from the depths of hell, but you're going to have to start earning some trust of the community again, which is completely lost. There is no confidence in Infinity Ward. There's zero, beyond zero confidence in Sledgehammer Games. The only studio that can maybe help you at this point is Treyarch, and they've got a tall task ahead of them in 2025, let me tell you, or 2024. to try to revive this franchise. But in its current state, where Call of Duty is at right now, yes, it is dying. Yes, it's on a downward spiral. And it's completely up to the developers and Infinity Ward and its publisher Activision whether or not they want to try to fix the problem or if they're just going to ignore it altogether. Because honestly, I wouldn't be surprised if they just ignored it. Anyways, that's all I have for my video today. A bit of a rant, I know, but as always, I'd love to hear your comments down below. What do you think of the current situation about Call of Duty? Would love to hear your thoughts. Anyways, that's all the time I have for today. Thank you very much for watching. If you enjoyed the video, please hit that like button. If you want to see more videos from me, please hit that subscribe button. I'll see you guys next time. Bye.